That's the way to think about it.
So Choo Choo passed away about 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and probably affected you a lot after 14 years.
Yeah.
What was the thing that affected you the most? Because in the beginning you were just unsure about, should we get her or not, and then after 14 years, it really affects your life, and you also share your life with the dog after that many years.
I mean, I don't consider myself to be a particularly emotional person, but I think that, it's interesting. My wife and I were talking about grief recently, right? Because we were just talking about like the degree to which like grief, if you think about all the human emotions, right? Like grief is the one that has like the most physical manifestations, right? Like there's no equivalent of crying for any other emotion, right? It's the only thing where our body actually starts to participate, right, in the feeling. Well, first of all, I mean, so Choo Choo was old for a long time, right? He was old when the pandemic started, and there was, I think, sort of, my wife and I used to talk about him getting older, and we would get teary-eyed about that. That was years before he actually got old, and then he got old, and he was just old for a long time, and it does feel like I mean, I certainly don't want to try to put a good spin on like a global health catastrophe, but the pandemic came along at a good time for Choo Choo because he was at the point where he really did need more support and just having somebody around more. He was never a problem leaving him while I would go work and stuff like that, but we would go work. But he was, at that point, I think he was just starting to suffer from a little bit of doggy dementia, and so it was just nice to have somebody around. We got this wheelchair for him because his back leg started to get less strong, and so we got this like contraption. Wheelchair is not a great description for it, but you might have seen them out there. It sort of helps prop their legs up a little bit. And I remember when I bought that, I was like, is this really a good purchase? Like, how much longer is he going to be alive? And then he used that thing for years, right? And he just loved it, right? And he would, so one of the things that was really hard with him was that, he was failing sort of mentally, right? Like he was physically kind of okay, but he was just like really increasingly confused and, was doing things he wouldn't do. And it was like one of these slow processes, right? So it was kind of like you get used to one thing and then something else would start to happen. I get used to that. And so at some point, it just put us in a position where we really had to kind of make a decision about, okay, like at what point is the quality of life here not good enough? And that was really hard for us, right? Because it was, an animal that we loved and we, had a lot of good years with. And it still feels like the right decision, and maybe also that maybe we waited even a little too long. But yeah, I don't know. But afterwards, I mean, like we were both really upset for a while. And I remember thinking, I don't know. I mean, I guess I maybe thought that there'd be some sense of relief, right? Because they're like, I mean, he would get up at night, right? And he got to the point where he wasn't able to control his bladder as well. So he would get up and he would sleep. He was always sleeping in our bed, but he would get up and you would kind of need to wake up and take him downstairs, right? Which at that point he couldn't go down the stairs on his own, so I would have to carry him and take him outside and let him, use the bathroom. And then frequently he would get lost outside because he didn't see as well and stuff like that. So, and this was happening like multiple times a night, right? So a couple times a night, like getting up, grabbing this, 40-pound dog, taking him down the stairs. And then you just think, okay, well, at least I don't have to do that anymore, right? But I remember thinking afterwards, like, even the state that he was in, right? Even this sort of like broken down, dog that was struggling with a lot of stuff was just like such a joy to have around, right? Like it was just like this. It's still a very big drop down to nothing, right? When he was no longer with us, So yeah, I mean, we think about him a lot. We were just thinking about him a few days ago, and my wife put together a beautiful photo album with pictures of him that we go through and stuff like that. And it's been, I think in some ways, I feel like we're honoring him by having another dog in certain ways, because Gracie is not Choo Choo. I mean, Gracie is totally different. She's a very different kind of dog, attitudinally very different, and behaviorally in a lot of ways. And I think in some ways it's like sort of allowed us to develop more of an appreciation of what Choo Choo was actually like. Because when you have a dog, it's really the only dog that I've ever had, that we've ever had. My wife had some dogs when she was a kid, but at least for me, like when you have a dog and it's just the only dog you have, it's easy for the dog to just be a dog, right? You don't realize kind of what's unique about the dog, the aspects of it that are really interesting. And then when you get another one, you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting, right? Like she doesn't do that or he doesn't do that. But anyway, I'm rambling at this point. But yeah, it was that was probably one of the harder things that I've had to do. My father died about 4 years ago, but I didn't have to. Like, there's an agency that you have to take with a dog, right? Because it's like, this is a creature that's relying on you to make this decision, and that's tough. So.